Welcome back to The Other Mirror, everyone. We're going beyond just everyday emotions today and looking at something that impacts millions, depression. And anyone out there who's gone through it or is going through it right now, I think we all have one big question: what comes after? How do we build a life that is full of happiness and fulfillment even after experiencing depression?
It's a question that deserves more than a surface-level answer. We need to understand that depression is not just fleeting sadness. It's a profound experience that influences every aspect of a person's life.
Yeah, it's like comparing, a passing drizzle to a full-blown thunderstorm. Sadness is natural. It comes and goes, maybe triggered by a specific event. But depression, it's persistent, often without a clear cause. And it lingers like a heavy fog.
Yeah.
You could be having a perfectly normal day, and suddenly that overwhelming sense of hopelessness just washes over you.
Precisely. And it's vital to recognize the distinction because it helps us understand when professional help is needed. It's not just a bad mood. It's a complex condition affecting your thoughts, your energy, your sleep, your relationships, pretty much your entire world.
Okay, so let's talk about those red flags. It's not about self-diagnosis, but about knowing when to reach out. What are some key signs that someone might need to reach out for professional help?
Well, there are a few key things to watch for. A persistent low mood that just doesn't lift, losing interest in things you once loved, changes in your sleep patterns or appetite, feeling constantly drained for no apparent reason, difficulty focusing, or even having thoughts of self-harm. These are serious signs that something deeper is happening.
Yeah, it's so crucial to remember that experiencing these things doesn't make you weak or broken. Depression is treatable, and there are effective tools and strategies to help you feel better. But I think it's also important to remember that depression isn't a one-size-fits-all experience. It doesn't always boil down to, a simple chemical imbalance.
You're absolutely right. It's often a complex web of factors. Our biology plays a role, of course. Genes, brain chemistry, hormones, they can all contribute. But there are also psychological factors like trauma, negative thought patterns, and the constant pressure of chronic stress that can push someone towards depression.
And then you layer on top of that things like major life changes, job loss, relationship struggles, or even substance abuse. These external factors can dramatically impact our mental well-being. Think about it. If you're constantly battling external stressors, it's going to wear down your mental resilience over time.
Absolutely. The key is that once you begin to understand those root causes, you can start addressing them effectively. That's where those coping strategies and long-term solutions come into play. But before we jump into those, let's talk about navigating those moments when depression hits hard, and it feels like you're simply trying to survive.
I think we've all been there most times when even the smallest tasks feel impossible. What can someone do in those moments to regain a sense of control?
One of the most impactful things, even though it sounds deceptively simple, is establishing a daily routine. Think about it. Depression often throws our routines out the window, leaving us feeling lost and overwhelmed. So, getting back to a regular sleep schedule, eating meals at consistent times, even planning one small activity to look forward to, these seemingly small actions can make a world of difference.
It's about creating those little anchors of stability in the midst of the storm, right? And there's actual science behind this. Studies show that routines help regulate our body's natural rhythms, including the production of hormones like cortisol, which plays a significant role in our stress response.
Exactly. Routines create structure and predictability, which in turn help reduce those feelings of chaos and helplessness that often accompany depression. They give us a sense of agency, reminding us that we have some control, even when everything else feels out of control.
So true. Okay, so we've got routines as a foundation. What about the role of movement? Does it really make a difference when you're feeling depressed?
It absolutely does. And it doesn't have to be about intense workouts or running marathons. Even gentle movement can be incredibly powerful. Think of it this way. Even a short walk outside can trigger a cascade of positive changes in your brain. It releases endorphins, those natural mood boosters, reduces those pesky stress hormones, and helps shift your perspective, even if just for a few minutes.
Yeah. It's like hitting the reset button, right? Get out of your head, into your body, and into the fresh air, and suddenly things don't feel quite so overwhelming.
Exactly. But remember, the key is finding movement you genuinely enjoy. If you hate running on a treadmill, don't force it. Explore other options. Dance, swim, hike, do yoga, anything that gets you moving and feels good.
I love that. It shouldn't feel like another chore on an already overwhelming to-do list. It should be something you look forward to, something that nourishes your mind and body. So we've talked about routines and movement, but what about those relentless negative thoughts that seem to take center stage when you're depressed. How do you even begin to tackle those?
Ah, yes, the inner critic. It can be incredibly loud and persuasive when you're struggling with depression. That's where the power of cognitive reframing comes in.
Okay, I'm really intrigued by this technique. Is it about learning to challenge those negative thoughts head on and replace them with more balanced, realistic ones?
That's the essence of it. You see, when we're depressed, our thoughts often become distorted. We overgeneralize, catastrophize, see things in black and white. Cognitive reframing is like hitting the pause button, taking those thoughts to court and asking, is this truly accurate? What evidence supports this thought? Is there another way to view this situation?
It's like you're the defense attorney for your own mind, fighting for a fairer, more accurate perspective. Can you give us an example of how this might work in a real-life situation?
Absolutely. Imagine someone struggling with the job search. They might catch themselves thinking, I'm a complete failure, I'll never find a job. With cognitive reframing, they can challenge that thought. They might say, hold on, making mistakes doesn't define my worth. I've also achieved many positive things in my life. This setback is temporary, and I'll continue to learn and grow from it. It's about shifting from a negative, self-defeating narrative to a more balanced and empowering one.
So powerful. It's like taking those negative thoughts, those mental traps, and dismantling them piece by piece.
Exactly. It takes practice, but over time, you can actually rewire your brain to be less reactive to those negative thought patterns. You can even write those thoughts down and analyze them, like a detective investigating a case.
That's such a helpful tip. Writing it down can help us see those thoughts more objectively and gain a clearer perspective. So we've discussed some practical steps to take when depression hits, but when do you know it's time to call in reinforcements to seek professional help?
That's a crucial question, and I can't stress this enough. There's absolutely no shame in reaching out for support. It's a sign of strength and self-awareness. If you're feeling overwhelmed, if your symptoms interfere with your daily life, if you've been struggling for more than a couple of weeks, or especially if you're having thoughts of harming yourself, please reach out to a mental health professional.
And it's important to remember there are many different types of therapy that can be helpful for depression. We often hear about cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which focuses on identifying and changing those negative thought patterns we were just discussing. But there's also mindfulness-based therapy, which helps you stay present and manage those tough emotions. And then, for folks who may have experienced trauma in their past, trauma therapy can be incredibly healing. It's about finding the right approach for your unique journey.
Exactly. It's about finding what resonates with you and your experiences. And sometimes medication might be part of the equation as well. The important thing is knowing you have options and that there are caring professionals who want to help you feel better.
I think what's so reassuring is that you don't have to figure it all out on your own. There's a whole community of support out there ready to help you navigate this journey. But let's shift gears for a moment and talk about what happens after those initial stages of recovery. It's not just about getting back to normal, right? It's about something much bigger than that.
It's about thriving. It's about building a life that feels fulfilling, joyful, and meaningful, even after experiencing the darkness of depression. It's about creating a new normal, a life that's even better than before.
I love that. So much of the conversation around depression focuses on surviving it, but it's so important to talk about what comes after, how to truly thrive. And I think a big part of that is redefining what happiness means for you. Because it's not just about fleeting moments of pleasure or external achievements, right?
Absolutely. True happiness isn't about chasing a constant high or trying to force a smile when you're hurting. It's about building a life that feels balanced, purposeful, and connected. It's about cultivating inner peace and resilience, those qualities that help you weather the inevitable storms of life without being completely swept away.
Yeah, it makes me think of those beautiful Japanese rock gardens. They're designed to represent the ebb and flow of life. The rocks symbolize challenges, and the sand represents the ever-changing landscape. It's a reminder that life isn't about avoiding the rocks altogether. It's about learning to navigate around them with grace and resilience.
That's such a powerful analogy, and it speaks to the heart of what we're talking about. Building a life that can withstand those inevitable challenges. It's about developing the emotional resilience to experience a full range of emotions, the good and the bad, without letting them control you.
So how do we cultivate that kind of resilience? Because it's easy to say, be resilient, but it's a whole other thing to actually embody that resilience when life throws you a curveball. I know I've struggled with this myself. There are times when I feel like I'm barely treading water, let alone surfing those waves of emotion.
I hear you, and it's a journey, not a destination. It's about recognizing that building resilience is a lifelong practice. One powerful technique that can help is training your brain to focus on positivity. Our brains are naturally wired to focus on threats and negativity. It's a survival mechanism from our cave-dwelling ancestors. But in today's world, this negativity bias can really work against us.
It's like our brains are constantly scanning for danger, even when there's no saber-toothed tiger lurking around the corner. So how do we break free from this negativity bias and start training our brains to focus on the good stuff?
Well, it's about making a conscious choice to shift your focus. It's about consciously seeking out the positive, even amidst the challenges. One simple but incredibly effective technique is keeping a gratitude journal. It sounds almost too simple, but trust me, it works. By taking just a few minutes each day to write down things you're grateful for, you start to rewire your brain to notice and appreciate the good things in your life.
I used to think gratitude journals were a bit cheesy, but then I started incorporating them into my own routine a few years ago, and it's amazing how much of a difference it makes. It's like you start to see the world through a different lens. You notice the beauty in the everyday moments, the kindness of strangers, the small victories that you might have otherwise overlooked.
Exactly. And it's not about ignoring the challenges or pretending that everything is perfect. It's about acknowledging the good alongside the bad, about finding those glimmers of hope, even in the darkest of times. And the more you practice gratitude, the stronger that gratitude muscle becomes. It's like any other skill. The more you use it, the more natural it feels.
Yeah, it makes me think of that, saying, what you focus on expands. If you're constantly dwelling on the negative, you're only going to see more negativity. But if you start to actively focus on the positive, you'll start to notice more and more things to be grateful for. It's like training your brain to seek out those silver linings.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of neuroplasticity. Our brains are constantly changing and adapting based on our experiences and our thoughts. So by consciously choosing to focus on the positive, we can literally rewire our brains for happiness and resilience. And it's not just about gratitude journals. There are other powerful tools that can help us strengthen that mental resilience muscle, those tools that help us bounce back from setbacks and navigate challenges with grace and strength.
Let's talk about those tools. What are some practical things we can do to cultivate that unshakable mental strength?
One of the foundational elements of mental strength is learning to accept that struggles are simply a part of life. It's not about pretending everything will always be sunshine and rainbows. It's about acknowledging that difficult things will happen, and that's okay. It's part of being human.
Yeah, I think that's such a crucial point. We live in a culture that often tries to sell us this idea of constant happiness. But the reality is that life is full of ups and downs. It's like trying to sail through a storm without acknowledging the wind and the waves, You're setting yourself up for a bumpy ride.
Exactly. And it's not about passively accepting those challenges either. It's about shifting our perspective from why is this happening to me to what can I learn from this? Even the most difficult experiences can offer valuable lessons and opportunities for growth.
It's like that classic saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But it's not just about becoming physically stronger. It's about becoming emotionally and mentally stronger. It's about developing that inner fortitude that helps you weather the storms and come out the other side with a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you.
Precisely. And it's about recognizing that you have the strength to get through those tough times. Sometimes it helps to look back and remember all the challenges you've already overcome in your life. Think about those moments when you thought you couldn't go on, but you did. Think about the obstacles you've faced and the resilience you've shown.
It's like creating a highlight reel of your own personal resilience, reminding yourself that you've got this. But I think it's also important to remember that building resilience takes time and effort. And it's not about being hard on yourself when you stumble.
You're so right. Self-compassion is essential throughout this process. It's not about beating yourself up for feeling down or struggling. It's about treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer a close friend. Acknowledge that you're doing the best you can with the resources you have in this moment. And that brings us to another important element of building lasting happiness and resilience, creating a mental health toolbox.
Oh, I love this idea. It's like having a toolkit filled with strategies and techniques that you can use to navigate those inevitable emotional ups and downs.
Exactly. Just like you have a toolbox for fixing things around the house, it's helpful to have a mental health toolbox filled with strategies that help you manage stress, anxiety, and those difficult emotions that can sometimes feel overwhelming. So what kind of tools are we talking about here?
Well, one tool that I find incredibly valuable is journaling. It's such a simple yet powerful way to process emotions, gain clarity, and work through challenging experiences.
Journaling is such a great tool. It's like having a conversation with yourself on paper. A safe space to explore your thoughts and feelings without judgment. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy, just grab a notebook and start writing. You can write about anything that's on your mind. Your dreams, your fears, your goals, your gratitude, anything at all.
For a long time, I thought journaling was just for angsty teenagers or super organized people. But then I realized it's for anyone who wants to understand themselves better. It's like shining a light on those hidden corners of your mind, those thoughts and feelings that you might not even be consciously aware of.
That's so true. And if you're not sure where to start, there are tons of journaling prompts online that can help you get the words flowing. Another powerful tool that we often overlook is our breath. There are so many different breathing techniques that can calm the nervous system and reduce stress and anxiety in just a few minutes.
I'm a huge believer in the power of breath work. It's amazing how something so simple can have such a profound impact on our mental and emotional state. Sometimes when I'm feeling overwhelmed or anxious, I'll just pause and take a few deep, slow breaths, focusing on the inhale and exhale, and it almost instantly helps me feel more grounded and centered.
It's like hitting the reset button on your nervous system. And of course, we can't forget about movement and exercise. We talked about this earlier, but it's worth reiterating because it's such a vital tool for managing stress and boosting mood.
Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be a strenuous workout. Even gentle movement like stretching, yoga, or going for a walk in nature can make a world of difference.
The key is to find something that you enjoy and that you can realistically incorporate into your routine. And it's not just about physical benefits. Movement can also be a form of meditation in motion, a way to connect with your body and quiet the mind. And speaking of meditation, that's another powerful tool that often gets overlooked or misunderstood.
I used to think meditation was all about clearing your mind and sitting in complete silence for hours on end, which, let's face it, can sound pretty intimidating.
It can, but the reality is that meditation is much simpler and more accessible than many people realize. It's not about emptying your mind, it's about learning to observe your thoughts without judgment, about cultivating a sense of awareness and presence.
It's about becoming the observer of your thoughts, rather than getting swept away by them.
Right.
And there are so many different ways to practice mindfulness. You can do it while walking, eating, showering, even washing the dishes.
Exactly. It's about finding those pockets of mindfulness throughout your day, those moments where you can pause, breathe, and reconnect with the present moment.
So we've got a pretty well-stocked mental health toolbox now. Journaling, breath work, movement, mindfulness, and meditation. These are all fantastic tools for proactive mental health care. But what happens when, despite our best efforts, those familiar shadows of depression start to creep back in?
That's an important question, and it's something that many people who've experienced depression worry about. It's essential to remember that even with all these tools, there might be times when depression tries to make a comeback.
And that's okay. It doesn't mean you failed or that you're back to square one. It's just a reminder that healing isn't always linear, and that's okay.
Exactly. It's a part of the journey, and that's why it's crucial to recognize those early warning signs of depression returning.
So what are some red flags to watch out for? What are those whispers that something might be off?
Some common signs include a loss of interest in things you usually enjoy, feeling exhausted or unmotivated for several days in a row, an increase in negative self-talk, and withdrawing from social connections. Basically, any significant changes in your mood, behavior, or energy levels that persist for more than a couple of weeks warrant attention.
Yeah. It's about tuning into those subtle shifts, those internal whispers that something might need attention. So let's say you start to notice those early warning signs. What's the next step?
That's where having a relapse prevention plan comes in handy.
A relapse prevention plan?
Yes. It's a written plan that outlines what you'll do if you start experiencing those early warning signs. It's like having a fire escape plan for your mental health.
I love that analogy. It's so important to have a plan in place so you're not caught off guard when those challenges arise.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be anything complicated.
Yeah.
Just a simple document that outlines the steps you can take to support yourself.
So what kind of things would you include in a relapse prevention plan?
Well, first and foremost, you'd want to list the people you can reach out to for support. Your therapist, doctor, family members, close friends, anyone who can offer a listening ear and a helping hand. Even if you feel like isolating yourself, reaching out to your support network is crucial.
Because we all need those lifelines, those people who remind us that we're not alone in this journey.
Exactly. And then you'd want to list specific self-care actions that help you feel grounded and cared for. Things like journaling, going for a walk, listening to music, taking a hot bath, spending time in nature, anything that nourishes your mind, body, and soul.
It's about giving yourself permission to prioritize your well-being. especially when things feel tough.
Absolutely. And it can also be helpful to write down some positive affirmations or grouping statements that you can repeat to yourself when those negative thoughts start creeping in, because sometimes we need those little reminders of our own strength and resilience.
It's like having a mental first aid kit filled with words of encouragement and self-compassion. And remember, this relapse prevention plan is just a guide. It's not set in stone. You can always adjust it as needed based on your own unique experiences and needs.
That's so important. Every individual's journey with depression is different, and there's no one-size-fits-all approach to recovery. So personalize that relapse prevention plan and make it your own.
And as we continue this conversation about building lasting happiness even after experiencing depression, let's talk about what happens after you've moved through those initial stages of healing and you're ready to start building a life you truly love. It's not just about surviving depression, it's about thriving beyond it.
You got it. It is about thriving. A huge part of that is rediscovering meaning and purpose in your life. Often, when we're in the depths of depression, we lose sight of what truly matters to us. It's like our internal compass gets a bit wonky.
It's like you're adrift at sea without a map or a destination in sight. But the beautiful thing is that even when it feels like we've lost our way, that sense of purpose is still there, waiting to be rediscovered.
That's such a beautiful way to put it, and that process of rediscovering meaning and purpose can be incredibly empowering and motivating. It can be the driving force that propels you forward on your healing journey.
So how do we go about finding meaning and purpose, especially after going through something as challenging as depression?
Well, it's a process of exploration and self-discovery. It's about trying new things, reconnecting with old passions, and paying attention to what sparks joy and excitement in your heart.
It's like becoming an archaeologist of your own soul, digging deep to uncover those buried treasures of passion and purpose.
I love that, and it's about being open to new possibilities. Maybe the things that used to bring you joy don't resonate anymore, and that's okay. It's an invitation to explore new horizons, to venture outside your comfort zone and see what else is out there. The possibilities are truly endless.
Yeah, it's about rekindling that sense of curiosity and wonder, like you're experiencing the world through fresh eyes. But what advice would you give to someone feeling lost and unsure where to start?
I would encourage them to reflect on the activities that make them feel truly alive, the things they get so engrossed in that they lose track of time. It could be spending time in nature, creating art, playing music, writing, volunteering, connecting with animals, learning a new skill, traveling. The possibilities are truly endless.
It's about following those sparks of curiosity and seeing where they lead and remembering that finding your purpose isn't a race, it's a journey. And sometimes the most beautiful paths unfold in the most unexpected ways.
So beautifully said. And as we wrap up this conversation about building lasting happiness, even after experiencing depression, I want to leave you with a few key takeaways.
I'm all ears.
First and foremost, remember that happiness is a choice. It's not something that just happens to us. It's something we cultivate through our daily habits, our mindset, and our actions.
It's about taking ownership of our own well-being and making those conscious choices that support our mental and emotional health.
Yes. And secondly, resilience is a muscle that grows stronger with practice. It's not something you're born with. It's something you develop through conscious effort and by facing those inevitable challenges with courage and self-compassion.
It's about learning to bounce back, to navigate those ups and downs without losing sight of your strength and your inherent worth.
And thirdly, and perhaps most importantly, remember that you are not alone. There are so many people who care about you and want to support you on this journey. Reaching out for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. There are incredible therapists, support groups, online communities, and even just the simple act of connecting with friends and family who care about you.
Sometimes just knowing that you're not alone in the darkness can make all the difference.
It can be a lifeline. So, if you're struggling, please know that there is hope. There are effective treatments available, and there are people who want to help you feel better. You deserve to feel better. You deserve to experience joy, peace, and fulfillment in your life.
This has been such a powerful conversation. It's a reminder that even though depression can cast a long shadow, it doesn't have to define us. There is so much hope and healing available, and we have the power to create a life that feels authentic, meaningful, and filled with joy. So, to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on The Other Mirror. We'll be back next week with another thought-provoking conversation.
Until then, be kind to yourselves, embrace those moments of joy, and keep shining.
Take care, everyone.